Hi, welcome to the Gastroenteritis Blues. My name is Steve Lippman. I'm joined as always by Emily Cannell and Dan Volpone, two of my absolute great pals, even though they talk about me all the time when I am not around to hear it. I have to go first to Dan Volpone, who has really dreamed for hours on end, years on end, about James Harden being a Sixer. And now James Harden is a Sixer, and it's just going so well, 2 games into it. And Dan, before we talk about the games, the Sixers have beat the Wolves and the Knicks in Harden's first 2 games as a Sixer, and we'll talk about both of them individually and collectively. But Dan, I just have to ask you, what has it been like for you to watch Harden playing actual games as a Sixer?
It's beautiful, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a beautiful thing. To use your own words, we deserve this. We deserve to see James Harden as a Sixer. He's, I was still pretty young for Iverson. Like, I remember when Iverson was a Sixer, but it wasn't like, I feel like I wasn't really old enough to be super into it at the time, and like really follow as much as I do now. And so, I really can't remember this level of guard play on the Sixers. And it's also just so like, it's like validating, like that, like my eyes were not deceiving me, that I wasn't going crazy when we had this whole talk last year. And people acted like Ben could do a lot of things that Harden does. Ben doesn't do the things that Harden does, right? Like their skills in the NBA are not binary things. And it's not, oh, are you a good passer or a bad passer? And that's it. Or are you a good rebounder or a bad rebounder? That's it. Like, the offense looks so good. The defense, first of all, I think we knew, especially, as the defense kind of survived most of the year, is fine. Joel is in there. Harden has been fine defensively. And the defense is surviving without Ben, like we kind of expected. Matisse is getting to play more. Matisse could have never started with Ben in the starting lineup. And offensively, it's not just the scoring, which he has been scoring. He had 27 and 29 his first 2 games. He's so much better of a passer. Like, Ben is a fine passer. He's a good passer. James Harden is one of the top 3 passers in the league, like indisputably right now. And the game is so easy for everyone right now. Joel is getting hacked because he's getting the ball with, wide open with a little guy between him and the basket, and that's it. Because Harden runs those pick and rolls, and you have to respect his shot. They basically have to double Harden on the pick and roll, at least for a second, and it gets Embiid open. It's so great to watch. And there's always the worries about Harden in the locker room, even though most of the reports say Harden is basically a pretty good teammate, besides when he wants to leave, which I know has happened a lot lately. But he was in Houston for a long time. And everyone seems really happy. Maybe Tobias doesn't seem happy because he's playing awful, but like Embiid seems really happy Harden's there. Maxey seems thrilled that Harden's there. Harden is smiling the whole game. Like, everything's going really well. It's only 2 games and whatever, but it's so fun to watch. They're so much more enjoyable to watch offensively when like it's not such a burden. Like, Embiid made it work, but it was a burden, and it was like when his shots weren't going in, the offense was painful. And it's not like they don't have to just rely on that anymore. Like, they get easy baskets. They're scoring more. Like, they're getting out in transition, and they're finding guys who are open are getting the ball when they're open because they have someone who can make those passes. Like, you can contrast it with Tobias, who, like, if there's a defender around, he can't throw the pass. And James Harden, like, the defender might as well not be there. It changes everything. And it's been, like 3 of the best days of basketball I can remember. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, Saturday just thinking about Friday, and then Friday and Sunday game days. It's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I'll go to Emily. One thing it really emphasizes for me is that Harden, when he wants to be out of a place, he's so good at not trying and like playing like shit when he wants to play like shit, because he's so good. He's unbelievably good. He scored 4 points against Sacramento.
And he's looking like a top 5 player right now.
Looks like a top 5 player. Like, you have to try so hard. if you're that good to score 4 points in like whatever you played in that game, at least 25 minutes, like the guy really knows how to like let a team know when he wants to be out of there. And thank God he wanted to be out of there. He wanted to be out of Brooklyn. He wanted to be out of Houston. He's just tremendous. And I'll go to Emily, but the chemistry that him and Joel seem to have on the court, is very clear that they were happy to be with one another from all the quotes and their joint media availability together. But the chemistry that they have on the court together already is incredible to me. Everybody was talking about, can Joel roll to the basket when Harden got here? And I just think it became pretty simple immediately that like he's never had a pick and roll playmaker, certainly of Harden's caliber, but kind of anybody's real caliber. And already this season, he was developing chemistry with Maxey. And then he gets with Harden, who's like an unbelievable savant, who draws 2 defenders constantly. And it's like 2 games in, and he's like, oh yeah, no, this makes immediate sense. And Joel draws so much attention constantly. And Harden's drawing 2 guys all the time. And like, they already look so good together. So, I mean, I'm thrilled with it. And Harden just looks great. And I like, I've just been, it's so
Also,
exciting.
Can Embiid roll? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's not that hard. Like, I understand that there's like some feel involved with like a good roll, but he still doesn't look like a natural roller all of a sudden. It doesn't really matter. Like, he's so open.
No, and he's not Clint Capella. He's not a lob catching guy. He's not really comfortable doing that. But
he doesn't need to be that.
He's gonna figure it out just fine.
Roll, like to just go towards the basket instead of away from the basket off the screen. It's not that hard. Obviously, he's able to do that.
So, Emily, what have you thought so far? 2 games in, just overall.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I mean, how could I not have? Another thing I'm really impressed with James Harden is he has this ability, because I brought it up a lot, that he looked like, at least last summer, like he was in terrible shape. And even in Brooklyn, he looked like he was in terrible shape. And now he's here and he looks like he's in good shape. So I don't understand how he can change his body so rapidly. Again, my fat suit theory, all the evidence points to yes. So I'm impressed with that. I think he's got a newer model. It looks better. He looks great. Yeah, it's been fun. I'm like, if this is what James Harden is going to do for the Sixers for the rest of his time here in this season, like I'm all on board. Like, give me more of it. If we have supportive, good teammate James Harden, who's not partying all the time and not hanging out with the team and doing good things, like who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, he's a shapeshifter. So that's one thing we just have to come to terms with.
You think he's like a mythical creature? Like, do you think there's like some like magic involved?
I'm willing to believe that.
I think he must have a photographer who, like, when he wants to leave, they know which angles, like when Harden wants out, you take pictures at this angle. When Harden is happy, you take pictures at this angle, and it just changes his look.
I think
because we've all had bad pictures of us.
Yeah.
Where you get tagged in something on Facebook and you're like, hang on a second, can I get a second opinion on this? Do I look like that in life? And it's like, no, it's more the angle, and he must have a bad angle guy.
Yeah.
Bassey. He's probably Bassey.
It's all, well, I think we could get Alex Subers on the podcast just to talk about James Harden's angles. Do you think he'd be willing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's something he's interested in doing?
I think he likes Ben too much to ever talk to us.
It's probably true.
Do you think he'll leave?
I don't know, but if he leaves, can Steve still play him in the next movie? Or
it's good. Well, I did say that. I did say that last week. So I mean, he probably heard it. So waiting to hear back if he wants me to, or if they make a biopic about him, I would just take on that whole role. So he would have to probably kill somebody, but I'm not ruling that out.
that.
I don't know. It would have to be a grisly murder, like a docu-series. Yeah.
It would have to be something completely different than it does now.
Yeah, it's true. It would be like a footnote that he's also a photographer. Anyway, we hope he doesn't do that. The first game was against the Wolves. I thought it was a fun team to play, the Wolves, because they're good. And they have like fun sort of sub storylines. There's Karl Anthony Towns, who Embiid and Towns seem to really like each other now. There was the fight years ago, but they seem really good now. And Towns is a very good player. Pat Beverly, who's just like a constant shit talker, and like they were down 25 and he stole the ball from Harden and was just like absolutely talking a ton of shit, which is hilarious. D'Angelo Russell never misses a shot against the Sixers. They were in it in the first half, and then the Sixers just went crazy. Tyrese Maxey has looked so good playing off of Harden, and I really wasn't sure how he was going to look next to Harden because he's like not an obvious catch and shoot guy, but what he's done is like supercharge his off the ball like playmaking, because Harden's drawing so much attention, and so is Joel all the time. And Maxey is either catching and shooting and making his shots, or he's sprinting to the rim, or he's making a floater. And he's just like, he's looking incredible. Like he's the third star. He looks unbelievable. He was great today against New York. He had like 5 steals at least. So the game against, we might as well just talking about them both together. Today against New York really stayed in it. Fournier hit a million shots. Today, Harden had a triple-double of 29, 16 assists, 10 rebounds. Joel had 37 and 9 rebounds. They shot a million free throws. Joel shot like 25 free throws. And Harden just gets Joel the ball exactly where he needs it every single time. It's like, I've just never seen Joel with somebody like this. And like, Ben never ran pick and rolls with Joel. The pick and rolls that Ben was able to run with Joel were those weird 3 feet away from the basket pick and rolls, which I had never seen before anywhere else in human basketball, that they were just trying to force them to play together. And it you know, they would sometimes yield points and sometimes they wouldn't, but like, this is just like, it's sort of impossible to defend a Joel and Harden pick and roll, because you really have to make a choice. And the choice is, do you stay with Harden or do you like let Joel run to the rim? And Harden has a great floater, and I thought Thybulle really made himself available around the rim today, and Harden was finding him really great. He just sees everything down there, and I've just been so excited by it. So we'll talk about the other guys, but like the main 3, we'll move on after that. But you know, Harden, Embiid, and Maxey, and you know, your main takeaways from those 3 guys playing together. Emily, what do you think?
What I think is really, I guess, heartening is that there doesn't seem to be a problem. I think some people were worried about, like, will Joel still be able to get his, and will Maxey continue to develop and score, or will James Harden, you know, take some of either of their luster? And I think the nice thing is that he hasn't at all. The 3 of them just seem to work together really well, and they're all getting theirs, and all 3 of them have been incredible these past 2 games. The one I think that is suffering a little bit is Tobias, but I think that's partially because Tobias is sometimes not that great at basketball.
Yeah,
I think we'll shots.
We'll talk about Tobias. I think we'll have to do a full Tobias segment. So let's focus on these 3. Yeah, just been like Maxey has obviously been great all year, and he's like probably going to be in like the most improved, at least honorable mention. His defense has looked great. His motor is just insane. He had that one steal today. Did you guys notice this, where he like drove and missed and was yelling at the ref about not getting a foul call, and then 2 seconds later he had like teleported down the court and stole a pass out of the air.
Is this the one where they were like mic'd up on the sideline and Matisse is like, how did you catch that? Or is this a different one?
That's a different one where Matisse stole it out of the air, and then Matisse like shovel passed it to Maxey's ankles, and then within like a nanosecond, Maxey like scored it immediately. They're so fun. They're so fun to watch. So Dan, those 3 guys, like that trio, Maxey, Harden, and Embiid, what have you seen from them, and how do you feel?
Yeah, I think that the worries about you know, is Harden gonna make them worse or something like that. Like I thought that they were kind of silly. Like Harden has always kind of made other players around him better. Even when he's miserable, he's actually been able to do that still. Maxey's so fast, and the Sixers really haven't been able to capitalize on that. They don't have the passers to really run the break that well. And Harden's changed that. I mean, Maxey's getting so many more points in transition. When Harden draws attention and Maxey has a lot of room, he can really attack that. He's not just fast like on his feet, like he's so quick finishing that his shots are hard to block when he's going downhill to the rim. With Embiid, Harden's looking for Embiid every time down, making things easier for him. Like I said, he's making those guys better, and the three of them are a lot of fun to watch. It's great to see the next two best players on the Sixers be guards who can shoot, who can pass, who can who can handle the ball really well. That's what we want around Joel. It's what we've wanted around Joel, and I think it was a fair thing to wonder, and not so much as a concern, because like I said, I thought Harden would make everyone better, and he definitely has. I thought it was fair to wonder, what would it mean for Joel's points, right? Like maybe Embiid gets more easy looks, and when Harden's off the floor, he takes over more. But maybe when they share the floor, Embiid, because I want Harden taking shots too. Embiid has scored more points than his season average in the two games that Harden's been here. And that's, 34-37. And the game with 34, they won by 31. They didn't play the whole fourth quarter. So Embiid is scoring more. He's getting the foul line more. It's been pretty easy for him. And you can tell Harden's looking for him, which has been the fun part. Like that was the first thing that jumped out to me Friday night. It's like, Harden is looking specifically for Embiid. He's like, let me get Embiid going. That's like priority number one before him taking shots. Before even looking for anyone else. At the beginning
of that game. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's how they need to play is go to Embiid early and then go to Harden off of that, and then like Harden's life will be made easier too once Embiid gets going. And so, the three of them have looked really, really good together, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, defensively, Maxey and Harden are both fine, right? Neither of them are Ben defenders, but they're not like a couple of Trae Youngs out there, and they're good enough, defenders where they're great enough together on offense that they don't have to be great defenders. I mean, not every backcourt needs to be Derek White, Marcus Smart like the Celtics have, right? Like the Sixers are scoring through their guards in addition to through Joel, and every possession is really going through Joel too. It's Joel set a screen for Harden a ton. Joel screen for Maxey some. Like dribble handoffs. It's just over and over and over. It's Joel to a guard off of Joel, guard back to Joel. Like it's they're playing together. There's not turn taking. It's so fun.
So in these first two games, in the first game, Maxey, Harden, and Embiid had 89 points. In the second game, that trio had 87 points. After the first game, Joel said that playing with Harden was probably the most wide open he's ever been in his career. It's pretty great. So Tobias has struggled. Tobias, I will say to his credit, in the first game, he took, I think, 6 catch and shoot threes, which is like, we never ever see that from him. And I think is a conscious effort from him, knowing the kind of player that he needs to be next to Harden, and knowing the kind of shots he needs to take next to Harden and Joel, who are really going to be holding the ball a lot, especially with Maxey out there. But the shots have not been going in for him, and he's, I think, getting fewer opportunities to do what he's probably most comfortable doing, which is dribbling around in the mid-range and backing somebody down and all of that kind of stuff. The Sixers want to move the ball more, or just have more centralized pick and roll with Harden, with Joel, and Maxey playing off of that. And it's very clear that he's, having to take a back seat on that. In 35 minutes today against the Knicks, Tobias had 12 points on 3 for 9 shooting. He went 2 for 5 from deep, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Just struggling out there. He didn't really look much of himself. His defense has been fine, the last couple games, but it's clear that he is sort of the one of the main guys that has not seen like the Harden bump here. I don't know that there's much to do about it. Like I don't think that especially with how well things have been going these 2 games, especially with Harden, Maxey, and Embiid, like Doc said before the game when asked about it, like Tobias is getting good shots and they'll go in, but like we're not going to like change a bunch of shit to try to get him better looks because he's getting good looks and like they just have to go in and like we're not worried about it. So I think that's the right way to go about it. Like I don't think they should change anything about that. Like I think he has prioritized in the right way, frankly, which is 4th, in terms of like the mouths that they need to feed in this offense. Like I don't think there's anything really to do about it. I hope his shots go in, but otherwise I think he's a good soldier. Like I don't think he's going to complain, like especially as long as they're winning. Like I'm not worried about it. I hope the shots go in. Obviously the contract, all that stuff, like we can deal with that in the offseason after we win the title. I'm not really stressing about it, but I would like his shots to go in. That's really it. Dan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I will say to your last point, I don't think he'll be here next year. I think he'll be able to get off with only 2 years left. But with what we're seeing from Tobias just all year, it reminds me so much, and obviously he's worse, and no one's pretending he's not, but it reminds me a lot of Ben's year last year, where it's like you can't kind of just be not very good all year and then have 2 good weeks in the middle and then go back to being not very good. Like when you're a guy who's expected to be, making in the 30s of millions of dollars, and the team relies on you to be that, not that he's, everyone knows he's not a top 3 player on this team, but he's taking up a lot of cap resource on this team. You can't even call yourself, and this is specifically about Tobias now, you can't even say he's a good player at this point, because he was good, not great for 2 weeks, and he's been dreadful the rest of the year. You're not just good because you have a good 2 weeks. Like he's been bad more than bad. I don't mean like just okay. Like he's been bad more than he's been good this year. Legitimately bad. He was bad the last 2 games, like really bad, to the point where they'll never do it. I would start George Niang. I'm not saying Niang is better, but Niang is better for what looks the 2 of them are going to get on this team. So what I mean by that is when you're playing with Embiid and Harden, Tobias is not going to get anything besides, catch and shoot threes basically. And that's all he should do, because he's not what he's good at, he's not good enough at to be doing that instead of Embiid or Harden dribbling or looking for their shot. And so really all you should be getting from Tobias, unless he has the ball at the end of the shot clock, is catch and shoot and play defense. And Niang is better at both of those things than Tobias is. And if you bring Tobias off the bench, maybe he could, when Harden's not out there, give you a little something. I would like to see. It's hard because you want to separate Harden and Embiid, because they're your 2 best players, and you want to have one of them out there at all times. You want to separate Harden and Maxey because you need someone who can handle the ball. So that kind of by default leaves Embiid with Maxey and Harden with Harris. But I think Harden would. Well, I'm sorry. I think Harris would actually be a lot better with Embiid. And so I don't love because of I don't think he's like we've been trying this for 2 years, and Doc's been trying to get him to be this guy who can just make shots off the catch and shoot and not hesitate and not have to take 2 dribbles into a 20-foot post up where he gets stood up and then has to kick it out, and we've wasted 6 seconds of the shot clock. They've been trying to get him to be this guy. And even when he played well last year, he wasn't that guy. He was just making a lot of tough shots, doing the same crap he usually does. And he'll have good games, and he'll have more games like this, where this is not suited to his play style, because as easy as it sounds, he's a fine shooter, so it should be easy to just catch and shoot. He just doesn't seem to be good at it. He can't really do it, and he's trying and he's putting them up, but it's so unnatural for him, and he can't get into a rhythm doing it. He doesn't look like he's in rhythm out there at all. And so I think there's no way they bring him back, because I think they're going to be able to get off of him. I think Darryl really doesn't like him. I mean, by all the rumors at the deadline where, he was, Ben's contract was, an asset that was like a Tobias salary dump was good enough for a Ben return. That were some of the rumors. He's killed in the last 2 games, right? Fournier hit some tough shots, and Paul Millsap is the worst player in the NBA, but Tobias held him back, and this game was closer than it should have been. And I just not sure I see it getting that much better with him missing these open looks. Like, he might not be this bad, but it's never going to be something he's like good at or as good at as like I said, George Niang, I trust more with a catch and shoot three, which is basically the extent of the offensive role for that position with the starters in this offense. So yeah, like they're not going to do it. They're not going to put $35 million on the bench. And I get it, but this is what Tobias is going to give you, I think. And, I thought Harden would help him a bit. And to some extent he has, in the sense, like Doc said, the looks are good. Like the open shots are there, but he's never been someone good at hitting them. And I hope that changes. But like, we've had 2 years where that has been his ideal role. It's never been ideal to have him like drive to the space Joel and Ben were occupying and take a contested 10-footer there, or to like you put someone, in a post up from, 17 feet from the basket, which also doesn't work against good teams. Like it's not going to work against Julius Randle, right? Like he basically relies on a guy smaller than him guarding him, which is another reason I think Ben was helpful for him, because Ben put some size at the guard position. But like, I think this is basically what he gives you, and these shots will be there, and he'll hopefully make more of them. But it's just not natural for him, and I worry that he's just not going to get into a rhythm because this isn't what he does, and this is not what he's good at.
You mentioned the thing with putting him on the bench, which I really, I don't think that's a thing they would do. But they did, I guess it was Brett, but they did it with Horford in the first year of that contract. But, Brett was sort of a lame duck at that point, and I think was really grasping at straws. That was a lifeless year. The Sixers are playing so well. It's not really a button they would press, I don't think, until they absolutely had to. And Horford was playing so poorly, and he was basically playing Embiid's position. That felt like a thing that they absolutely had to do. So, Emily, how do you feel about, Tobias? We're 2 games into this. Things could, I definitely get what Dan is saying, which is like the shots that are available for him are basically the shots that Niang is sort of elite at, and Tobias is not particularly suited for. But what do you feel about Tobias so far in the Harden reality?
Yeah, like I was saying before, he just is the one that doesn't seem to be benefiting. And I know when Harden came here, he even like specifically mentioned like wanting to get Tobias more involved, and like his job is to like get him his looks. He's getting some of them, and I do think they'll start to go in. I just like don't, when the Sixers look this good, like I don't think that the upgrade to put Niang in the starting lineup is like, I think it's just like even, like, what do I care? Like, you can say Tobias killed them these past 2 games, but like they look great these past 2 games. So I don't really think that they got killed in any way. Like they won the games. They murdered the Timberwolves. The next game was closer than it should have been, but I'm not going to concern myself with like players in wins. Like it just seems like I'm going to stress about something when they won the game, and why do that? It was a win and it was good.
I just think they have so little time. They have to figure it out.
But like this year, they're not gonna. So just like let it go.
Well, but Tobias,
roll.
Tobias isn't part of the team after this year anyway. I'm starting to feel pretty sure about. And so like I don't think he's a guy that you have to like. I don't think he has to be part of the building towards figuring it out in the long term anyway. And I mean, I don't think he's going to be like. Well, the fact that someone making all that money stinks will be a reason if they don't win the title. But I don't think that he will like preclude them from winning, because I think that they have 3 good enough players and good enough role players around them. But I do think it's worth like, and I know it won't happen, but like when you're 2 games in and you're still in the figuring it out phase, like, yeah, they beat 2 awful teams. I mean, the Timberwolves are
Minnesota's not awful. Yeah,
they're under 500. Yeah. They're not awful. They're not good. They're fine. And the Knicks are no, I'm sorry, they're 2 games over 500. The Knicks
they're in the playoffs.
Put some respect on their name, Dan.
But the Knicks are really bad, and it's an afternoon game in New York. I'm not like worried about it. Like it's a good win. It was fine, and I really enjoyed the game. But like, yeah, that game should have been out of reach. And this is the kind of thing where it's like it'd be great to rest, Joel and Harden in the fourth. And like, maybe if Niang's out there and makes, a few of those Tobias misses, then the lead doesn't get cut from 11 to them being down 1. And like, it's like a momentum killer to have miss after miss and Tobias like mess up after mess up, basically. I just don't think that he has to be part of your figuring it out. I don't expect it to happen. And I'm not saying he doesn't give you things Niang doesn't give you, but with what's available with the guys around, Tobias, what he brings is like useless when you have such good players around him. Like, you don't want him doing too much, like what he can do to like drag you to have your floor be the 10 seed or something. So you'll always be in the play-in if you have Tobias. Like, they don't need that. They just need a guy to stand there and hit shots. And Tobias struggles with that. I'm not like overly worried, but I think it's worth like tinkering right now. And just, you have so little time. Like, who is our best team and who are our best guys to give minutes to going into the playoffs? I'm not convinced that it's Tobias.
Tobias is not a great defender, but foot speed wise, I would be a bit concerned with too many like Harden, Niang minutes a little bit. Quiz question before we move on from the Knicks game. Who was the highest plus minus tonight between, you can use Knicks players and Sixers players, everybody. Who was the highest plus minus? And what was the plus minus if you want to get a bonus treat? Emily, you first.
I'm going to say Tyrese Maxey.
Okay.
I don't have a numbered. I don't want a bonus
Great.
streak.
Okay. No bonus treat for you. Dan?
I have no idea. I'll say Embiid.
Okay, both wrong. Tobias Harris is actually your winner.
I was gonna say that just from the conversation we were having, but it just seemed too obvious.
Plus
And
25
it was really reflected in
for
his play.
soon to be benched best player in the game, Tobias Harris. Interesting.
Such a great
Wow.
stat, plus minus.
Yeah, single game
such a
plus
great
minus.
stat.
Steve loves
Absolutely.
single game plus minus.
Jokic's plus minuses
It
are
really-
probably
it
so
really
much higher
shows you.
than Embiid's. That's why he should be the MVP, guys.
Tobias Harris, who was absolutely terrible today, plus 25. Excellent. I guess
Hey,
because
he
he
hit
was
a couple.
tied to
He
Harden's
hit a couple
minutes.
great shots once the game was already over.
I know he hit that three when
It was
it
a good
garbage
three.
time.
It was a good three.
He hit one three that was actually helpful, and then he
Right.
had his dunk and his other three once the game was way
That's
over.
I forgot about the
So it
dunk.
dragged him up to his 11 points or whatever he scored.
He had 12 points, and 5
12
of them
points.
were literally when the game was over.
So besides
Alright.
garbage time, he had 6 and 7 the last 2 days. Perfect.
All right, so listen, we'll go to an ad break, and then let's talk about Doc's rotation, and then whatever else shit. We're back. So Doc Rivers said before these games started that he wanted to keep 2 of the Sixers, 4 core starters out there, and that we didn't know who the 5th starter would be. Fifth starter has been Matisse Thybulle. There was some conversation about would it be Danny Green, would it be Furkan Korkmaz, who would it be? So I think the rotation questions to talk about with Doc are: how do you feel about Matisse as the 5th starter? How do you feel about Paul Millsap as the backup center? How do you feel about the way he's staggering? We might want to do these bit by bit. So how do you feel about Matisse as the 5th starter? Personally, I'm fine with it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what it would look like. Obviously, Matisse can't hit a 3 anymore. Just literally, I don't remember the last time one went in. But I wanted to see
Definitely hit
it.
3s on Friday.
He hit one Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
From
then
the
I do
corner,
remember.
I think.
Okay, now I remember. I just wanted to see it. He's an incredible defender, and I think that against teams that matter, you're going to need a guy who can really guard them. And I don't trust Danny to be out there against those guys. I think we're seeing how old Danny is right now, and I worry about him getting absolutely cooked out there. And I know how helpful his shooting is next to Harden. But I also, with Harden and Joel out there, I'm just not worried about the offense, really. I don't think Matisse Thybulle is powerful enough to destroy the offense with the other starters out there. So I'm happy with the Matisse thing. I think those lineups, if I looked at the data, which I'm not, I think they would probably be really good. So I'm happy to see Matisse out there, and until proven otherwise, I hope they keep it. Emily, are you happy with the Matisse as the 5th starter?
Yeah, I like it. all the reasons that you said. I also just think he like is energetic and young and athletic. And now that it was in the starting like lineup, but when you have Matisse out there, you get really fun plays like that
Yes.
halftime ending dunk and those steals and deflections. And I think it can also like kind of shake a team up early if Matisse is out there and he's being super active and they can't get in a rhythm. I think that's helpful for the Sixers. So
I agree. So Dan, about Matisse, and then we can also transition into the way that Doc has staggered, which I think is just really smart because you want to keep one of Harden and Embiid always on the court, which he's done the first 2 games, and I see no reason he wouldn't keep doing this. For the most part, there was a little bit in the third quarter when they were up like 25, and then of course they were no longer up 25 when he went to all bench. But for the most part, I think when the games are within reach, he's been keeping it's either Joel and Maxey or Harden and Tobias. You alluded to this a few minutes ago, but those seem like the sensible pairings, especially with the chemistry that Joel and Maxey have had. And then it's been like Korkmaz and Niang that come in as the first subs off the bench. So how have you felt about those pairings and about Matisse as the 5th starter?
Yeah, I'm fine with Matisse as the 5th starter. I think there's probably certain times where it makes sense to put a shooter out there instead of him. He really is not shooting the ball well, but his cutting has been really good, which matters a lot more with when you have Harden. Harden's found him like with a few great passes. But a couple times Matisse is like wide open under the basket, and I didn't even notice. And next thing I know, the ball's there because Harden does that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean he's a good athlete, so he makes plays on defense, obviously, but he's helpful getting out in transition. He's not like a Danny Green bad dribbler. Like I don't want him trying to create off the dribble, but like on the fast break, it's fine. Or like if there's a wide open lane, it's fine. And so I think that's helpful. And yeah, his shot can't go in. Hopefully if he gets hot at the right time, it'd be great. But just cutting the basket seems to be enough right now. Like I said, there could be times where it makes sense to take him out. Obviously Harden wasn't playing in that Bucks game and he changes things. I think Harden helps Matisse a bit. But I don't think it's unthinkable that maybe there's a time where we need less Matisse. That's fine. For right now, I think it's great to put him in there. If he can build chemistry with the starters, that'd be great because he would definitely be helpful in the playoffs. And yeah, with Doc, I'm fine with how he's staggering. I really only have one complaint about Doc, and it's that anyone but Paul Millsap should be playing. But with the rotations, besides the personnel decision of who is the second center, I have no problem. Like it makes sense how he's doing it. It's what people have been asking for, so I better hear no one complaining. But like, yeah, it makes sense to have one of Embiid or Harden out there. And in the playoffs when they're playing 40 minutes and they're each only sitting, 8, then there's, those 8 are staggered, but you got what's that 40 minus 16, they're still going to play 24 minutes together. That's half the game where they're both out there. And then my math is off there, but ignore that. And then I'm sorry, they'll play 32 minutes together, I think, in the playoffs. And then, 8 each with one not out there. That I don't know. I think that makes sense. I think that's right. I think they'll play 32 minutes together and then 8 each with one of them not on the floor. Which I think is good. I think there should be 0 minutes where one of them's not out there. And, when, like I said, when they're playing more minutes each in the playoffs, like they're still going to get a lot of minutes together and they've been so good together. And so I don't think you're really sacrificing how good they've been together by staggering them when they're off, because once you get to the playoffs, they're going to be off so little. But I do want them to, be comfortable without the other one out there because they should both be able to carry the lineups on their own. And then, but yeah, together they've looked great. The stagger makes sense. Like I said, I don't think it takes away from how great they've been together, especially once you get to the playoffs and they're playing more.
Yeah, and it seems to me that Doc is the 5th starter spot in the 4th quarter is going to be pretty conditional. Like in the Minnesota game in the second half, he was
the
going
4th starter spot should be too.
It's true. The 5th starter spot, I think that if Danny's hot and if Matisse is like fouling people and not hitting anything and not getting open, like if Korkmaz is having a good game, like it seems to me that Doc is not like completely wedded to Matisse has to be in there when the starters are reunited, and I think that's probably smart. Millsap, what the fuck is he giving you? I don't understand. I don't understand theoretically what the point is. Like,
he's also never been a center. He's 6'8", and he's currently very unathletic.
He's playing center now just because he's 100. He's not hitting threes. He's not switching on the perimeter because he's short. Like,
he's so
what's the
slow.
point? He can't jump.
Can't move.
I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, B-ball Paul is not particularly tall, but he can jump out of the gym, and he's a really good defender. Like, get one of these guys in there. Willie Cauley-Stein.
Willie Cauley-Stein. Any of them.
Willie Cauley-Stein signed a 10-day. Do we know if he's half Jewish? What's the Stein? Does anybody know? Drew, can we get a Google on is he half Jewish? Whenever you have a chance. We have the IT department on that. Emily, Paul Millsap out there fucking around looks terrible. Who would you like instead of, unless you're a Paul Millsap stan, which please let me know, who would you like to play backup center? Charles Bassey is blocking 8 shots a game in the G League. For me, it's just try any of these warm bodies that can jump or block a shot or hit a three, any of them, except for Paul Millsap, because I just have no idea what he's giving us.
Yeah, I would love to see Paul Reed get those minutes I've talked about. I think Paul Reed is 1, he's fun, 2, friend of the pod, 3,
yeah,
not 100. So I think he's got those things going for him. I'm into chaos basketball, and I think that he gives us that. So I would like that. I did Google the Willie Cauley-Stein thing. So let me just give you my Wikipedia information.
Okay.
On May 1st, 2015, he officially filed a name change order, changed his birth name. He did it to honor his mother, Marlene Stein, and his maternal grandparents, Norma and Val Stein. I mean, that's all I've got. Who raised him after his father left him when he was 4. Also, okay. He also added Trill as a middle name, a nickname given to him by his friend. So it's actually Willie Trill Cauley-Stein is his real full name. But that's what I got. How do you feel about Marlene, Norma, and Val?
Marlene, all right. Drew popped up for a second here. I don't know if Drew had an etymology on that Stein.
They are Jewish. I just Googled it.
Yeah, that was on the dot exactly what I was going to say.
Jewish.
Norma and Val Stein, his Jewish maternal grandparents.
There you go.
Half
this
Jewish.
Guy, he's got to play.
Half Jewish. He's just like me, guys.
I was really concerned though in warm-ups on Friday when he was wearing a dangly earring, and I was like, is he gonna play in that dangly earring? Or what if it gets ripped out? And then when he got in, when he got in garbage time, he took the dangly earring out. So it was good.
Okay, good. All right, we gotta listen. He's a member of the tribe. We have to put him in there. Let's
get him on the podcast.
Get him on the podcast. I mean, he's gone in like 6 days, so we have to
gotta do it quick.
We gotta get him on the podcast. Willie, we need you on the podcast.
Daryl needs to waive Paul Millsap and
get him off.
You can give Cauley-Stein a second 10-day. If Doc is going to play Paul Millsap, like just get rid of him. Like it's not even like I kind of like I understood it with Dwight, because Dwight like he gave you some things.
Huge.
Even though like there were things he did bad in the playoffs, he was bad, but like Dwight does some things, and he's a center. Also, Millsap is not. Millsap is Tobias Harris's height. Tobias could be the backup center. Just throwing that out there. Right, because Niang took a spot in the starting lineup. But no, I don't understand how he can play. He's and what are we seeing? Like you see Minnesota, and you're like, all right, we'll give him one more try. And then the first half against the Knicks, it's like, okay, no, that's just who he is. That's just who he is. Why put him in again in the second half? He's horrible.
I don't know. Dwight was an elite rebounder. Like Millsap can't get a rebound to save his goddamn life, and he's not even Jewish. What are we doing?
Because he's short and can't jump.
Come on. All right.
He sucks.
Get him out. Don't let this. I mean, it won't ruin anything. We have James Harden and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. We're doing great. But I'm just saying, Doc, can we? Let's get over. Don't
make me think about this, please.
No, don't make us think about this. we're also, Doc, we've been very nice to you over the years. Willie Cauley-Stein, come on the podcast, get another 10 day. All right. Ben Simmons in the news a bit this week. Danny Green went on his podcast that's In the Green Room or something like that. He said to his friend Harrison, he said, Harrison asked him about the March 10th game where the Nets are going to play the Sixers. He said, that made Dan laugh a lot. I don't know why.
His friend Harrison.
He said it made, he asked, because the thing where Juwan Howard mushed that guy in the face during the handshake line. He asked if Ben is going to shake the Sixers' hands at the game where the Nets play in Philadelphia. Danny goes, well, first of all, listen, I don't think he's going to play that game. I just love how unfiltered.
He's not. He's obviously not.
It's just so funny. So this is chronological, by the way. It's just so funny how unfiltered Danny is about all this shit. He just doesn't even really pay attention to what he's saying. He goes, I don't think he's going to play in that game. First of all, he goes, first of all, we know Ben doesn't like playing in Philadelphia. So I think it's highly unlikely he plays in that game. He goes, I don't think he's going to shake hands in that game. If he did, I would shake his hand. It takes less energy for me to hate you or some sort of thing like that. He said, I wonder how it's going with basically Curry and Andre Drummond because their relationship was not cordial in Philly. Then Seth Curry was like, I don't know how I got dragged into that. Me and Ben are fine. Leave me out of it. I don't want to be a part of it. And so that was basically what he said there. So then over the last few days, Goran Dragic, I don't know, got signed. He hasn't played all year in Toronto. He was like, they're not very good and I don't want to play for them. So he's just sort of been working out. He played 5 games for them and he's 100 years old and he was just sort of working out. They signed him as a buyout guy after he got traded and he played the other day. They ramped him up and he played. And they traded for Ben, and Ben, they said, was out due to conditioning. And some reporters in New York were saying this is very strange that they traded for Ben, who's 25 and has been working out all year, and he's still out due to conditioning. But Goran Dragic is 100 years old and hasn't played all year, and seemingly was working out as well. But why is he able to play if he's been working out just the same? Now, of course, there's the mental health thing, but you would think they would just say he's continuing to work on his mental health because that's something that they're saying very openly now. That, I don't know. I mean, that's a separate thing, but that's something they're very open about at this point. And Ben is around the team now and working out, and he has not been doing 5-on-5 just yet. So then Shams has a report that says that this was yesterday. Nets star Ben Simmons is dealing with back soreness in reconditioning process that requires further strengthening of the area, I guess that's the back, over a period of time before return to action. Brooklyn has no set timetable for Simmons' return. It is uncertain whether the 3-time All-Star will clear necessary return to play hurdles for the Nets' March 10th return trip to Philadelphia. But the team is treating as a day-to-day process. Incredibly strange to do an injury update and pick out one specific game, I guess, would be my read on that. It's very odd to just talk about that exact game.
The only game on his mind, though.
Do you guys have any, I guess, what'd you say?
It's the only game on his mind.
Sorry, I froze here.
You really are freezing.
Yeah, so it's strange. He could have, I guess, what's weird to me is that one day he said, the head coach says it's just conditioning. He's still working on his conditioning. Then that same night, Ian Eagle on the broadcast said it might be a back thing. So I guess, why does Ian Eagle know that on the broadcast and the head coach 2 hours before that has no clue that there's anything wrong with his back? It's all very strange, I guess. I of course, lots of fans are saying he just doesn't fucking want to play that game in Philadelphia. I don't have any idea. Dan, I feel like you might have a theory here. What do you think?
He just doesn't want to play in Philly on March 10th. I mean, that's it. I don't care, like it's fine. If people are paying $180 for the cheapest tickets to that game, that's on you if you thought Ben was playing. I'm sorry. He was never going to play this game. Like, fine, don't play. I don't care. It's not about winning, right? Like he should want to be back as soon as possible, whatever. Maybe he's hurt. They say he's hurt. He's hurt. Great. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me anymore. It doesn't matter. Like he maybe he's hurt. He definitely, the fact they singled out the Philly games because he doesn't want to play in that game. And backs, the way backs are, there's no reason to say like, well, maybe he could be better by then, right? Like there's no reason that he couldn't, but he won't be because maybe his back does hurt, but he also does not want to play the game in Philly. And we've known that was going to be the case. And I don't care. Like he's their problem, right? Like he's not going to play for 4 weeks after they traded for him. And, if they're going to talk themselves into being fine with that, like we did for 4 years, then that, like, not that in particular, but just like everything about Ben, like, fine, go ahead. Does not matter to me. Like that is their problem now. And I am not going to worry about it.
Not the only weird thing, but a weird thing about this, of course, I honestly totally get if he does not want any part of that environment on the 10th, but they need wins right now. Like Brooklyn is in 8th and they need to win in a really bad way. So they really need him on the court. So
the difference between that 8 and 9
back
seed
thing,
is huge too, like you're saying.
right? So if there's nothing to the back thing, like I guess they think the optics are really bad if he plays all the way up until the 9th and then they go, ouch, and he doesn't play on the 10th. But boy, this is sort of really tricky, like, they need to stack wins as many as they can. Obviously they would like to get out of the play-in entirely, which seems extremely unlikely, but like, I don't know, man. They need wins. Emily, what do you think of this situation?
Well, are the optics worse if he plays up to the 10th and then doesn't play the 10th, or are the optics worse if he doesn't play at all because he's not in shape, even though he's been working out since the whole season, but he's not in shape? But Goran Dragic, who's 10 years older, is in good enough shape to play basketball. So like that's a bad optic. That means he hasn't been playing basketball is what's been happening. He's not in shape because he hasn't been playing basketball.
Or
I don't think he likes basketball.
I don't know.
Well, his new house doesn't have a court. Not that he was staying there. He was in New Jersey. But...
Like, I don't think the kid likes basketball. I think that it sucks to be good, really good at something you don't like. And now he's stuck doing it and he doesn't like to play basketball. So like, but he makes millions of dollars. So he sucks it up sometimes.
I would automatically like something if I were that good at it.
You would think.
Like if I were as good at as Ben Simmons is at basketball, I would really love basketball because I love
being good at stuff.
Love doing something they're good at.
I love being good at things and I hate being bad at things. That's why I don't do the majority of things.
My interest could shift pretty fast. Like I don't really care for soccer, but if you all of a sudden made me like, one of the 50 best soccer players in the world, I think I could get really into it.
You'd think.
Yeah, what if somebody made you a big Bored Ape ambassador though?
That doesn't make any sense. That's not a skill. Come on.
What if you're really good at NFTs?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. You guys are
I'm saying, what if you became a big crypto trader? I don't even know how to say it.
Oh, I would cash out as early as possible. Like with the amount of money some people made, like I don't feel the need to carry the grift on that long.
No, the contingency is the only way for you to ever get this money is to continue the job for 10 straight years.
I could grift for 10 years. Yeah.
Oh my God. You sacrifice your morals, which are expressly stated on this podcast.
For how much money am I making?
$10,000 a year.
Oh no. I thought I was making like $10 million a year. No, $10,000 a year. What?
No, $10,000 is a lot.
Yeah, but like it's not enough to like sell out. Like 10 million I'll sell out.
Post-tax 10 grand?
I'm not gonna sell out for 10.
Pre-tax.
Okay, pre-tax, maybe not. That's only like 5 grand.
660. Yeah.
My tuition is so high that $10,000 is like nothing. Like I'm paying 6 times that every year to not make any money.
College is great.
Yeah, we love college.
We love
yeah.
college. We're like Asher Roth.
Does
A
Dan
reference
even
for
get that
Emily?
reference?
No.
Yes, I know. I know
Oh.
who that is.
Oh,
You do?
oh,
I do.
Because that feels so early for me. I feel like I was so young.
I was in college for that. Dan was like 8.
I wasn't in college, but I know the song.
Yeah.
I have never heard. Who
Thank
the hell
you.
is that?
So Asher Roth
Cheers,
had
Drew.
speaking of Jews, had a definitely Jewish, I think.
Isn't he from here?
Roth.
I don't know.
I believe so.
He's from some.
He's from Morrisville.
Okay.
In Bucks County. He's from Bucks County.
He had a song called "I Love College" that came out when Emily and I were in college. That was just like a big party song. That was all about
2009.
drinking.
I was gonna say,
people
was
would
it?
play at parties?
Maybe Dan knows this. The Rebecca Black Friday.
Oh, I know that song.
Of course, with the kid with his hand out the window.
No, because people unironically like this song.
Oh, it's like the Red Solo Cup
Yes,
song. Okay, got you.
I feel like it was probably in that movie Project X.
He'd do something
Probably.
crazy. That's the
Yeah,
line in
do
it.
something crazy. Yeah. Wow, good old days. Final piece of business. Friend of the show, Tyler Monahan, got promoted at work, and he will be moving into his own place in North Jersey, which is what Tony Soprano did. He got promoted at work, and he lived in North Jersey. So big congratulations to Tyler Monahan, who we love and support all the time. So we love you, Tyler. And that's really it. So moving on to our standings update, predictions for the week. Emily, where are we at with the standings?
Yeah, so we all picked wins this week. How could we not? So we're chilling in the same spot. Me and Steve are 37 and 24, and Dan is 34 and 27. So that's where we're at.
This week, the Sixers play home against the Knicks and the Cavs, and then they play on the road in Miami. Let's see. I will pick first. I will say they're going to beat the Knicks. This is the first Harden home game. Certainly letdown potential. I was slightly a bit nervous about the Wolves game because sometimes when there's a very cool thing happening with the Sixers, they will lose the game. Like in Butler's first game, they lost to Orlando on the road, and it was like, but I do think they'll beat the Knicks at home. And I think they'll beat Cleveland at home. I am picking a loss at Miami over the weekend.
So win loss, is that what you're
win
saying?
Loss.
Yeah, I just refuse to pick them to lose until they lose, and I mean, who knows? So 3 wins. We'll see.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I just like I think they're going to win their next 38 games, so that would include going 3-0 this week.
Well, Harden's a Sixer and things are going great. We thank you for listening. Hey, subscribe to the YouTube Gastro Blues Pod, a Sixers podcast. Follow Emily, Third and Girl, Gastro Blues Pod, Steve J. Lippman, D.A. Peltz, 13. And that's it. Follow James Harden.
J. Harden 13.
Come on the podcast. James Harden 13. Although he should change it to 1 because now he's 1.
It needs to be J. Harden 1 now. Yeah.
Right. This is all very exciting. Release Paul Millsap. Yeah, good stuff. Be safe and be great. And we'll be back with you next week after another 3 wins.